No, man, I thought we got off to a good start. And then I killed our momentum with a pick six, And at the end of the day, I didn't do a good enough job giving us a shot to be competitive in the game, So at the end of the day, it's on me.
All right, Raider Nation, it is Raiders Real Talk Monday, coming off of an absolutely terrible game yesterday with the Denver Broncos in Mile High. It was an embarrassing loss, to be sure. A lot of questions are now being asked about Antonio Pierce, about the quarterback situation with Gardner Minshew, and will he continue to be QB1, or are we going to make a change over to Aiden O'Connell? Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, clearly unhappy and frustrated. The whole team looking deflated coming off of this loss. Has Antonio Pierce lost the locker room? Is the sky falling on the Las Vegas Raiders? We're going to get into all of that and more on today's episode of the Raider D Podcast. All right, Raiders and Raiderettes, let's just jump right into the nitty-gritty, the ugliness of yesterday's game. Now, at the beginning of the game, I myself, amongst probably all of you, were feeling like, man, the Raiders are looking really good. We hit a nice 57-yard touchdown to Brock Bowers, who just towered over the poor safety who was trying to cover a future superstar in the NFL, and he gets his first touchdown in the NFL as a Raider. It was something to behold. It was beautiful, and we were all screaming and cheering on Brock Bowers. And I got to give credit to Gardner Minshew. He was able to stand in the pocket, not panic, and get the ball off as he had pressure coming into his face. In fact, in the first quarter, Gardner Minshew looked pretty good, completing over 70% of his passes, getting us into the touchdown, getting us into position for a field goal. Though I did heavily criticize us not going all the way when it was 3rd and long, instead of just trying to kick the field goal. And I know at that time, everybody in the live stream was saying, hey, points are points, get the points. But I was screaming, don't let off the gas. And this was an Antonio Pierce thing. This was a Luke Getsy thing. We designed a short play to pick up 6 or 7 yards just to make the field goal that much easier. However, as you can see, Daniel Carlson had absolutely no problem nailing that thing and probably could have kicked it from another 15 yards back. So grabbing that 6 yards did absolutely nothing really to help Daniel Carlson, and all it did was solidify the fact that we were not going to keep our foot on the pedal and on the gas and on the necks of the Denver Broncos. We should have went for the first down. We should have went for a touchdown, because as I said, when you get restrained to kicking field goals, it is a moral victory for the other side's defense. And a moral victory is exactly what it turned into be, because shortly thereafter, Gardner Minshew would begin to struggle and struggle mightily, reverting back to his old self. Now, we've seen in the first quarter, in that first drive, Gardner Minshew is hustling out of the pocket, running for 12, 13 yards, picking up 2 touchdowns doing that. But then he reverted back to his old self, where he steps back into the pocket, starts to feel the slightest amount of pressure, and he panics. Literally, in one of his sacks, he turned completely around and ran into his sacker. This is the problem with Gardner Minshew. He'll have a couple of good plays, and then Gardner Minshew will panic. He'll revert. He'll regress. He'll get his feet into this weird scissor looking motion when he's throwing the ball, where literally his left foot is scissored across his right foot, throwing him completely off balance as he's releasing the ball, and he'll throw high balls, short balls, balls out of bounds. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened when he threw the pick six, because we were driving. We were about to put the nail in the coffin and go up 17-3, demoralizing the Denver Broncos in their own house. Instead, Gardner Minshew scrambles out to his left on a designed play. Brock Bowers is wide open. All he has to do is catch the ball and lean forward for 1 yard, and he's got a touchdown. That really helps the Raiders to solidify our dominance in this game and hopefully demoralize and get the Broncos out of their game. Instead, Gardner Minshew scrambles to his left and once again has his legs in a scissor motion to where his left leg is literally crossed over his right leg. His body is torqued in a weird angle, and he just chucks the ball up 3 feet above the head of Brock Bowers, right into the hands of Patrick Surtain II, who then runs it down for a 100-yard pick six. The whole air out of the Raiders' side of the bench was deflated. The balloon was popped. Gardner Minshew was back to being Gardner Minshew. We were looking at a highlight reel game for Gardner Minshew, finally as a Raider, turned back into, well, the Gardner Minshew disaster that it has been all season. He has a couple of good plays that make you think we can win with this guy, and then he turns it into disaster. Follows that up with 20 consecutive plays where we only managed to pick up 73 total yards. Absolutely no way that any team can win when you have that lack of production. Gardner Minshew immediately looked disorganized. He looked panicky in the pocket. He didn't look free, loose, and good like he did in the first drive of the game where we scored the touchdown. He follows that up with a really bad decision to throw the ball short to Trey Tucker. Now, Trey Tucker got immaculate coverage on him by a taller corner. The guy is literally taller than Trey Tucker. You don't throw high point balls on Trey Tucker's side of the field because he's too short. You throw the ball to Trey Tucker when he has separation, which is what his speed and his route running give him. If he is covered, you don't throw Trey Tucker the ball. He's not Devontae Adams. He's not going to go up there and get the ball. He's not a tall receiver. And so this was an easy interception for Denver because all their corner had to do was just put his hands up and catch the ball. It's almost as though Gardner Minshew was throwing the ball to Denver rather than to Trey Tucker. So after this second interception, and after literally him turning around and running into sacks and not looking downfield and not scrambling out of the pocket and picking up first downs, the decision was made to bench him for the second time this year. Now, at this point, the game was still reasonably at a point where the Raiders could come back and win with some really good play. We're only down by 17 at this point. So at this point, Antonio Pierce decides to bench him and put in Aiden O'Connell. Now, I think that this is unfair, and I actually called it before this game. Watch for this to happen, where we're going to be down by a couple of touchdowns or more. And all of a sudden, Gardner Minshew will get benched, and all the pressure will be put on Aiden O'Connell to step in as a backup and win this game. That's a lot of pressure to put on Aiden O'Connell, being that he hasn't had first-team reps for almost the entire season. And so he doesn't have Devontae Adams out there for one, and he doesn't have the chemistry as well as everything that is needed for him to be successful coming into this game as a starter would have. And I knew that this was going to happen, and exactly what happened. Aiden O'Connell was thrust into the game. He did a good job. Aiden O'Connell did a good job. Now, he did have that pick, and I want to talk about that pick for just a second, and we'll even show it right here. If you watch this play, Brock Bowers is open. He is in front of his man. Brock Bowers is 6'3". He is 230 pounds. He has a coverage on him, but it's behind him. And so Aiden O'Connell makes a great throw right into the midst of Brock Bowers in stride. Brock Bowers pops the ball up. Rookie mistake. We've seen Brock Bowers drop a ball last week. We've seen him pop one up this week. This interception is 100% on Brock Bowers. He is a future superstar, but he is still a rookie. And rookie mistakes like this are going to happen. But for everybody saying, well, Gardner Minshew may have thrown a couple interceptions, but look at what AOC did. He immediately throws an interception. First of all, he didn't immediately throw the interception. And second of all, he threw a perfect pass. It was a great pass. You cannot deny that. Anytime the ball hits your receiver right in the hands, that's the receiver's fault if that ball pops up in the air, not the quarterback. Yes, the quarterback gets the interception. But when you look at it in reality, that was on Brock Bowers. Now, does this mean that Aiden O'Connell played perfect? No. But also during his drives at the end of the game, there were quite a few dropped passes, including the one that turned into an interception. But there was also a couple of high passes. There were a couple of missed passes as well. So he didn't play great. He didn't play perfect, but he did play better than Gardner Minshew was playing in the second and third quarter. So definitely he came and he got a spark. And the Raiders were able to drive down the field and score a touchdown, which was a rushing touchdown, but AOC got him all the way down there. So that's what you're looking for. That's why when you have a quarterback who can't manage to put up more than 30, 40 yards in 20 plays, 73 yards total, but some of those were rushing yards. When you have a quarterback that can't do that, you have to make a change. The Raiders made a change. AOC gave a little bit of spark, just like he did during the Carolina loss. But it was too late for AOC to do what AOC can do. The point of this now is you are 5 games in, and Gardner Minshew has more turnovers than he has touchdowns. He looks lost and confused 90% of the time he's on the field. And just look at his body language. He's not leading this team. He's not firing up this team. He looks like a puppy dog. And I know that this is the knock on Aiden O'Connell. Oh, he's not a leader. He's not firing up the team. Where do you see that in Gardner Minshew? In fact, I was having a conversation with a good buddy of mine earlier saying AOC shouldn't be the starter because he's too soft, he's too nice. Where's the fireball from Gardner Minshew? Where's Gardner Minshew yelling on the sideline? Where's Gardner Minshew yelling in the huddle? Where is he correcting his wide receivers? I haven't seen that all season. Not once. You can do the rah, rah, rah before the game. That's great. That's not leadership. So if you're going to knock Aiden O'Connell for being the nice guy, I'd rather have the nice guy who looks more confident when he goes out there. He may not be Peyton Manning, but he certainly looks more confident than Gardner Minshew. Than the guy who looks like a puppy dog who just got his bone taken away from him when he's on the sideline, when he throws an interception, when he misses a pass. I don't see any fire in Gardner Minshew whatsoever. And so I think at this point, it is time to go with Aiden O'Connell. I think Aiden O'Connell should have been the starter from the very beginning. I knew what Gardner Minshew is, what he has always been in his career, which is an inconsistent backup quarterback. He is not a starter. He doesn't deserve to be a starter. He should not be a starter. With that being said, I don't know if Aiden O'Connell is a starter caliber quarterback in the NFL. 9 games is not enough to judge that with a guy coming straight out of college. You can say that about Gardner Minshew because he started dozens and dozens of games, 20, 30 games, 40 games in his career. He is what he is. Let's see what Aiden O'Connell can be. Make him the starter for the rest of the season. That's going to give him 12 games as a starter, or 11 games as a starter. Yeah, 11 games as a starter this year. Add that with the 9 last year, and now you have a good sample size of 20 games of Aiden O'Connell. And you should be able to tell at the end of the season if we got 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins, and Aiden O'Connell has more interceptions than touchdowns, and he's got a completion rating of 55%, okay, no problem. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL. He's not a starter. Time to go get our franchise guy in the first round of the draft. As far as Antonio Pierce goes, I got to say this, man. I was wrong. I was one of the biggest supporters of Antonio Pierce, and he looks lost as a coach. I don't see him making any adjustments or communications on that sideline at all. Every game I have watched, he looks more like a spectator than a coach. If you look at top-tier coaches, they are actively involved in every single play. And all I see Antonio Pierce is with his headphone flipped up, hunched over, just watching the game. And then he does a presser at the end of the game saying, I didn't see anything good. I didn't see anything good. We lost. There's nothing good. I don't think Antonio Pierce is going to make it as a head coach in the NFL. If this continues, if he's not actively involved in this game, if he's not actively teaching, which is what coaching is, if he's not actively helping the play calling, if he's not active at all on that sideline, if he just thinks that being a head coach is just doing press conferences, then he's not going to make it as a head coach. So at this point, I would say Antonio Pierce was a mistake. And if we don't make an adjustment quickly, if Patrick Graham isn't given the interim head coach job and become the head coach of this team quickly, which is, I think, the guy who should become the head coach of this team right now. If that doesn't happen soon, I mean, we could see an all-out revolt and even possibly see a Max Crosby requesting a trade because he's fed up. It's obvious. It's written all over his face. He's not mad at Devontae Adams at all for wanting to bounce. And it's only a matter of time before we lose Max. He's not even 100%. He's going out there wrapping up a couple of sacks, pressures, tackles, doing what Max does. And we don't have a good coach. We don't have a good team. We don't have a good quarterback.